Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Nivada Grenchen Chronoking Racing Blue. This watch is available from NivadaGrenchenOfficial.com for $610 which is €515 respectively. Nivada Grenchen have a rich brand heritage. They were founded in 1926 in Grenchen in Switzerland. This piece, the Chronoking Racing Blue, is a heritage reissue of the original Chronoking, which was made in the 1970s, made to modern day specification. The watch is available in the following colour options: black, blue, grey, green and black carbon respectively. The black carbon version is the only limited edition of 500 numbered pieces. Of the colour options, I think this racing blue version is the best looking. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is housed inside this outer black cardboard box. So I'll take out the watch box from the outer box and show it to you. Now, in the base of the outer box, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. It has a message, welcome to the Nivada Grenchen Owners Club, and it also has their social media handle and hashtag. So, at Nivada Watches and also hashtag Nivada Grenchen, should you wish to share images of your pieces on social media. And at the base, it's got their contact email, contact@NivadaGrenchenOfficial.com, should you wish to make a warranty claim. So, this is the watch box itself, which is made from plastic, which is vinyl coated, and you can see it has a sleeve which says Nivada Grenchen Chronoking Mecha Quartz in complete command of time. So one removes the cardboard sleeve from the watch box, which is a snug fit. And this is the watch box itself, made from plastic, and it's vinyl coated with a grained finish to the vinyl, which looks like leather. Nivada Grenchen gilt shield on the top of the lid, and on the front we have the iconic Nivada Grenchen gilt logo, very aesthetically pleasing. And they've done a very good job of coating the plastic watch box with this grained vinyl. And good attention to detail with the base because it's lined with felt. Purpose of the felt liner is it prevents the watch box from scuffing or scratching a polished or lacquered desktop or tabletop, and also prevents the watch box from sliding around. So very well designed. So one removes the lid, which is a very snug fit to the base. And inside we have this foam protective panel which has a cutout, and this does a good job of protecting the watch in shipping from any damage. Now, on the underside of the lid we have an image, a high definition picture of the Chronoking. On the left hand side we have Chronoking, and on the right it gives you an introduction to the Chronoking which tells the story of it. So good attention to detail. This is the base, as you can see, fully upholstered with black velour fabric to a good standard, and there's a cutout which houses the padded pillow cushion, which I'll take out and show you. Padded pillow cushion is fully upholstered with black velour fabric to a good standard, good snug fit in the cutout. Now, this watch box differs from other Nivada Grenchen watch boxes that you may be familiar with. There's a drawer in the base with a cutout for your finger. So I'm just going to take my glove off because it's going to be difficult to withdraw it. It's a very snug fit, so one needs to put an index finger in and pull it out. This houses 4 spare bezels, so the watch comes with 5 bezels, 1 fitted to the head of the piece and 4 spares. So to clarify, 3 of the bezels are made from sapphire crystal and 2 of the bezels are made from aluminium, and they're all fully lumed, so we'll test those in the lume test. So I fitted the blue bezel to the piece, but it also comes with a green aluminium bezel insert, black aluminium bezel insert, orange sapphire crystal bezel insert, and red sapphire crystal bezel insert respectively. Good to have the options included, and we'll also test removing the bezel and refitting. Now, with regards to the other items, one also gets this cardboard warranty card and this space to fill in the serial number of the piece, and on the reverse it details the terms and conditions of the 2-year international warranty, which is excellent. I want to give due credit to Nivada Grenchen here because often mid-tier pieces between €500 and €5,000 are only covered with a 12-month international warranty. To get 2 years of international warranty is excellent, and they deserve full credit for that. Lastly, one gets this die-cast steel tag which has Nivada Grenchen and Chronoking on the front, and on the reverse it's sterile. There's one notable thing which is absent, and that is an owner's instruction manual in the form of a printed booklet with high definition pictures and clear concise instructions detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko Caliber VK63 Mecha Quartz. Now, as an alternative to a printed booklet owner's instruction manual, I would like to see Nivada Grenchen simply use a card like the warranty card with a QR code that could be scanned with an Android or iPhone to download an owner's instruction manual. So that's the one thing that's missing, and I think it's disappointing, bearing in mind this is a mid-tier piece at €515. It really is mandatory to have an owner's instruction manual in some form at this price point. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 38mm case diameter. However, there is an overhang on the bezel which I want you to be aware of. The case is 38, but the bezel is larger at 39, so there's a 0.5mm overhang on the left hand flank and a 0.5mm overhang on the right hand flank respectively. So visually it does look and wear like a 39mm due to the bezel being 1mm larger diameter than the case itself. So it's a 38 case but actually looks like a 39 due to the bezel. We have a 46.5mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 13.6mm and a lug width of 20mm. The genuine leather strap is made from calf leather and it's rally pattern, and black stitching matches the matte black leather, and the rally profile to it is fully perforated, nice taper from 20 at the lugs down to the buckle and tang, solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, angular profile to it, flawless brush satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks, and we've also got large mirror polished bevels on the angles which deletes the sharp edges but also makes it look very aesthetically pleasing. Top left corner it's signed with the Nivada Grenchen shield emblem to a high definition standard. No sharp edges, no sharp corners, doesn't have sharp edges to the undercuts to the flanks, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. Nice vertical brush satin finishing to the flanks, and I think the quality of the finishing to the buckle is excellent, and also it's a nice heavy gauge to the buckle and tang, therefore it's going to be reliable and robust long term in terms of durability. We have a boxed double dome top hat style crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished baton handset and silver mirror polished applied stick indices. Quality of the handset is excellent. What I like about it above all else is the use of contrasting orange hands on the three subdials at 9, 6 and 3, and I really like the triangular profile to the orange chronograph hand, which is very well proportioned but also gives the piece a real vintage aesthetic. This does look like a 1970s Chronoking, and as I've detailed, the original Chronoking was produced in a plethora of options through the 1970s. This is a heritage reissue of it made to modern day specification, but by using the contrasting orange accents on the subdial hands and the chronograph hand, it does give it the look of a 1970s Chronoking. Very aesthetically pleasing. Textured dial, rather than being a sunray blue dial, or alternatively a matte dial, or alternatively a glossy enamel blue dial. Textured finish adds interest to it, gives it a 3D effect. Also, these three subdials have a concave profile, they're not just flat. Again, this gives a nice 3D effect to the dial. The applied stick indices are correctly proportioned, and around the circumference we have a chapter ring, and the first 15-minute quarter of it is white, which contrasts with the other 3/4 which are blue. So, I really like the execution of the dial. The legibility of the three subdials is good, easy to read, and the proportions of the handset is correct. And I think they've done a very good job of infilling the handset with BGW9. This piece uses two different types of lume. It uses C3 Superlume Nova on the bezel and also the dial, and it also uses BGW9, which we'll test in the lume test on all of the 5 bezels included. Box top hat crystal is double dome with AR coating, and it does add 2mm of thickness, but what I like about this piece is, although it has a box top hat style crystal, it is only 13.6, which is excellent. The bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge finish to it, nice large mirror polished bevel. Chamfer to the top edge. The chamfer deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth, does give the piece a vintage aesthetic, and it does look similar in terms of proportion to the original Chronoking used in the 1970s. Now, as I've detailed, they produced the Chronoking in a plethora of options, and the original 1970s version had a dive style bezel with Arabic numerals and minute ticks. This one uses a tachymeter, which is more suitable for a chronograph and more contemporary, but I think it's a shame they didn't offer this piece with a dive style bezel, because it is a 120 click unidirectional bezel and therefore it could be used for timing. But nonetheless, quality of the finishing to the stainless steel is excellent. Now, the bezel inserts are offered in 2 different versions: fully lumed sapphire crystal and also aluminium for the black and green versions, which are anodized, and we'll test those in the lume test. I think it's nice to have the 5 different colour options, and my 2 personal favourites are this blue version and also the black version, and easy to change. We'll test out the changing of the bezel. So, Case is solid 316L grade stainless steel, angular profile to the lugs. I like the brushed satin finishing to the top of the lugs and the large bevels which mark the transition between the top of the lugs and the brushed satin finish flanks. Quality of the mirror polishing is excellent, nice sharp crisp transitions, no sharp edges, no burrs, and the undercuts to the flanks have been deburred very well, so no sharp edge, and the tips of the angular lugs have bevels, so no sharp corners. Pierced lugs give it a real vintage aesthetic, and they also make exchanging the rally leather strap easy because you can depress the spring bars externally through the pierced lugs using a spring bar tool. And it does have quick release stainless steel spring bars, which is excellent. So let's look at the strap in detail. So calf leather strap, genuine leather, matte finish to the top, it's black, and they've made the correct decision by using a grained matte finish. Does give the piece a vintage 1970s aesthetic. And also, if they'd made it glossy black, for example, it would have looked like a dress piece and too shiny. The underside has a contrasting tan liner. It's soft and supple. And in terms of how soft and supple it is, it's as soft and supple as a Hirsch calf leather strap, which is made in Austria, alternatively a Hall-Winchell Cordovan strap, tanned in Chicago, respectively. That's how soft and supple it is. It is a thick strap. It's thicker at the spring bar end, where it needs to be more reinforced for it to be robust with daily wear and tear, and then it gradually tapers down in thickness down to the buckle and tang, and I think it's good. We've got two keepers. First one is fixed, second one slides, as one would expect. Let's look at the underside to it. So fully perforated with the rally pattern, and this is good because it allows for air circulation and it allows for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist, so the strap will dry out quickly when one is active or alternatively in warmer weather. Very comfortable to wear because it's soft and supple, perfectly smooth tan liner and matching tan stitching around the perimeter, and good attention to detail because the tip of it has the Nivada Grenchen shield embossed, and we've got the Nivada Grenchen text logo embossed. Quick release stainless steel spring bars are the correct choice, and strictly speaking it doesn't need quick release stainless steel spring bars because we do have pierced lugs as I've detailed, therefore you could depress the spring bar externally, but nonetheless it's good to see quick release stainless steel spring bars which make fitting the strap and also removing it easy, because therefore there's no risk of scuffing and scratching the mirror polishing to the underside to the head of the piece, which is often the problem with thick stiff straps like this. The other side says Italian leather embossed, so it's calf leather and it's made from Italian leather, very high quality, and I'm pleased to see they didn't use any production cost cutting measures with regards to the quality of the strap. It is very soft and supple, and I like that it doesn't require any breaking in. It feels immediately like a worn in strap and very soft and supple. So let's look at the case back in detail. So forged case back, and what that means is the case back is hydraulically pressed versus being engraved for the embossing. It's very deep. The embossing is very 3D. I like the Nivada Grenchen silver shield and the Nivada Grenchen text logo, and it also says since 1926, which is good attention to detail to the heritage. Matte be blasted background to it. The embossing is mirror polished, no sharp edges, doesn't feel rough. This is the benefit of a forged case back, which is hydraulically pressed. Had they engraved this, because of the depth of the embossing, it would feel sharp, no matter how high definition the engraving would be. This is the benefit. We've also got this nice chamfer around the circular ring around it, which adds interest when it catches the light. Very well finished. This is high tier level finishing to this case back. It's not a mid tier level case back in terms of execution. Around the circumference is concentric CNC lathe tool machined, and we've got the specification reference number for the piece and the serial number. Outer circumference, outer portion of it, has flawless mirror polishing. The milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well, so no sharp edges. And what I like about it is it's not a deep bubble back case back. It's relatively low profile, and it's good because it provides 100 meters of hermetic seal, which is strong specification for a chronograph. Strictly speaking, this could have a pressed on case back or 50 meters of water resistance. It's a chronograph, not a dive piece, but having 100 meters and a screw down case back is strong specification. Quality of the finishing to the underside to the head of the piece is stellar. Flawless mirror polishing to the underside, nice large bevels on the four tips of the lugs, that deletes the sharp corners, and as I've detailed, nice large mirror polished bevels on the undercuts to the flanks. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor because there's no sharp edges or sharp corners on the underside of the case, doesn't scratch the wrist, doesn't feel rough, and as I've detailed, this hydraulically pressed forged case back is perfectly smooth and it looks good but also feels good when you wear the piece for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. So credit where credit's due. Case finishing, bezel finishing, case back finishing are all stellar. Right, so let's test the bezel execution. Now, this may come as a surprise to you. The bezel isn't fixed. The bezels are interchangeable, and we'll test that. But this has a clicking mechanism, rather like a dive piece. So it has a 120 click unidirectional bezel. It sounds audible and also feels exactly the same as a 120 click unidirectional dive bezel, which you'll all be familiar with. It's a shame that out of the 5 interchangeable bezels, they didn't offer a dive bezel as an alternative to the tachymeter, because we have 3 sapphire crystal bezels and 2 aluminium bezel inserts, but we don't have any dive markings on any of them. They all have the same tachymeter scale. I think for variety and just for having the option, it would be nice if they made 2 of the bezels with dive bezels, markings with Arabic numerals and 15-minute ticks, for example, but nonetheless. Quality of the sapphire crystal is excellent, and it's inlaid with lume, which we'll test in the lume test. The Arabic numerals are high definition and crisp, they're not too thick and blurry, and the tachymeter ticks are also easy to read. It's got a nice glossy finish to it, rather like a ceramic bezel insert, but it's actually made from lumed sapphire bezel. Nice blue tone to it. Now, no lateral side-to-side play whatsoever. No back play whatsoever. Feels nice and tight. In terms of resistance, it feels even through the 360 degrees of rotation. Doesn't get heavier or looser, which is good. Nice loud audible clicks. Feels smooth. Doesn't feel rough or gritty. Doesn't feel too stiff. Feels very similar to, in terms of resistance, it feels similar to a Seiko 5KX. Feels lighter than a Steinhardt Ocean 139, which is too stiff, and I like the refinement of it. What I like about this, and I'll show you when I remove the bezel, is rather than having a click spring, which is the convention for 120 click unidirectional bezels used on dive watches, this has spring-loaded ball bearings, which are stainless steel. This does add to the smoothness because you can feel the ball bearings engaging with 120 grooves on the underside of the bezel. Feels very smooth. Feels more like a GMT bidirectional bezel using the ball bearings, which are spring loaded, and it does give more smooth feeling versus using a click spring, which can have more friction. So I like the resistance. Feels nice and tight, but not too stiff. So they've got it excellent. So I'm just going to check the alignment of the 60 on the tachymeter. One more click. Perfect. The 60 on the tachymeter perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index and the 60-minute mark on the chapter ring on the dial. Excellent. So I'm just going to check the bezels, but before I do that, actually, we'll do a lume test of all the bezels and we'll see how they perform when they're fully charged. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge them up to the absolute peak. So just bear with me. I'm going to charge up the sapphire bezel inserts and also the 2 aluminium bezel inserts. The green and the black are aluminium and the red and orange are sapphire bezel inserts respectively, but they are all lumed with the same C3 superluminova, so I'm hoping to see 5 to 6 layers. Now just bear with me because I want to make sure all 4 bezels are fully charged to their absolute maximum. Right, so that's now fully charged. Now, as you can see, there is a notable difference. On the left, we are looking at, I'll just check to make sure I'm telling you the right information. Yes. On the left, we are looking at the aluminium bezel inserts. So, top left and lower left are the black and green aluminium bezel inserts. On the right, we are looking at the ceramic bezel, the sapphire crystal bezel inserts, which are red and orange respectively. Now, you can see there is a difference. On the left, the C3 superluminova looks brighter, the potency of the exciter looks brighter, and that indicates the sapphire bezel inserts have more layers of C3 superluminova applied. If you look at the 2 right hand ones, you can see the potency of the exciter is less. So I'm just going to hold my torch on and to remind you. So what we're looking at is on the left the black and green aluminium bezel inserts. On the right we're looking at the red and orange sapphire bezel inserts. They're all fully lumed. The the tachymeter scale, ticks and Arabic numerals are all fully lumed. On the aluminium bezel inserts on the left, they've engraved the anodized aluminium and then infilled it on the top side with C3 superluminova. On the right, the underside of the sapphire crystal inserts are engraved and then infilled on the underside. So that's the difference. We've got lume on the top of the aluminium bezel inserts, lume on the underside of the sapphire bezel inserts on the right. So this is the difference. Now you can see the benefit of the sapphire crystal and you can see the negative of the aluminium bezel inserts because you can see potency of the exciter is different. They both use the same C3 superluminova, but on the aluminium bezel inserts they've been able to engrave the aluminium bezel insert deeper and we've clearly got more layers. This looks more like 5 to 6 on the left. You can see on the right the sapphire crystal bezel inserts, they're fading very quickly. This is disappointing. Now I'm just going to check the lume on the watch itself, and I want to check the dial, the hands, and also this one has a blue sapphire bezel insert which has the same C3 superlume Nova. Now, as you can see, potency of the exciter is good on the dial. The applied indices are infilled with 5 to 6 layers, and also the handsets have 5 to 6 layers. Good colour tone match, but problem is this sapphire bezel insert, which is blue and engraved on the underside and then infilled with C3, is disappointing. What we're looking at is not 5 to 6 layers on the sapphire bezel inserts. I think we're looking at 2 to 3 or a maximum of 3 to 4 layers. You can see potency of the exciter on the dial and hands is good colour tone match. Tachymeter scale and Arabic numerals and tachymeter ticks are just not as bright. They lack the potency. This is the problem with the sapphire crystal. Now, I appreciate sapphire crystal is brittle, and of course when you engrave it too deep it's prone to cracking and fracturing with stress fractures. That's the difficulty. You can't engrave sapphire crystal as deep as ceramic, for example, or alternatively aluminium, and therefore inlay it with 5 to 6 layers on the top side or the underside. Sapphire crystal is more like glass, and when you engrave it, of course, it can get stress fractures, so they have to be careful. It's a difficult material to work with in terms of infilling it with C3 or BGW9 Superlume Nova. I am mindful of that, but I think they could go deeper than 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 layers of depth. I'd really like to see 5 to 6. If they need to make the sapphire crystal thicker to take the 5 to 6 layers, then they should do that. So you can see legibility is good initially on the tachymeter scale, but then it quickly fades to nothing. And this is really disappointing because we're looking at a mid-tier piece here. One can be magnanimous about this if this were a low-tier Chinese-made piece between €0 and €500. But once you get above 500, between 500 and 5,000, it needs to be 5 to 6 on the bezel, the dial and the handset. So that's the lume test. Now, I'll go back to the bezels because I want to remind you this is the problem. So I think what we're looking at is on the left, on the aluminium bezel inserts, the black and the green versions, we've got 5 to 6. And then on the right, on the red and orange sapphire bezel inserts, we're only looking at 2 to 3 layers. So you can see the difference. Initially they look the same, but very quickly now what you're going to see is exponentially with time. The two right hand bezels, which are sapphire crystal, they're going to fade very quickly. Now they're fading to nothing. The aluminium bezel inserts on the left are holding charge longer, as you can see. But you can now see the real difference. I think there's room for improvement on all the bezels. The aluminium bezel inserts and the sapphire bezel inserts, but particularly on the sapphire bezel inserts on the right, the red and orange, and on the left, the black and green aluminium bezel inserts are better. Disappointing for €516. Now, let's actually check changing the bezels, because this should be able to be done without any tools. Now, I've tested this out, and I find the easiest way to do this is simply to use your index fingernail at the 12 o'clock position, or 60 on the tachymeter. And what you do is just prise your index fingernail beneath the bezel at 12 o'clock or at 60. And then what happens is the bezel begins to come off, as you can see. It just lifts. And you don't have to prise it very hard, so you don't need to use a tool. But it then begins to come off. And then what you do is you just go around it, and it actually comes off very easily. So I'll show you how it looks on the underside. Now, you'll note that there's no click spring. For example, on dive pieces with 120 click unidirectional bezels, they usually have a click spring which is engaged in a hole in the head of the piece. And the click spring engages in the 120 grooves on the underside of the stainless steel bezel. And as you can see, there are 120 grooves engraved into or machined into the underside of the solid stainless steel bezel, and normally a click spring would engage with the grooves, and that's what gives you the resistance, the clicking. But this doesn't have it. What it has instead is it has ball bearings which are set into the case with stainless steel springs. So for example, at 9 o'clock here we have a stainless steel ball bearing which is spring loaded. At 6 o'clock we have another, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. At 6 o'clock we have another stainless steel ball bearing. Just bear with me. We'll get the camera to autofocus. There we are. 6 o'clock, another stainless steel ball bearing, which is spring loaded. And then again, at the 3 o'clock position, we've got a ball bearing, which is sprung loaded. And then again at 12 o'clock. So what we're looking at is we've got 4 stainless steel ball bearings at 12, 9, 6 and 3. This is actually the convention for GMT bezel pieces with bidirectional clicking bezels, such as a Rolex GMT Master 2. But the difference is, With the Rolex GMT Master 2, Rolex engrave the holes in the head of the piece vertically, not horizontally, because Nivada Grenchen have done something different here. They've engraved the holes horizontally. So this is the main difference. Usually GMT pieces with a bidirectional bezel would have vertical holes drilled in the case, and the 4 ball bearings are set on top of stainless steel springs, and the springs engage in the underside of the grooves in the bezel. But of course they want to make this unidirectional rather than bidirectional as per a GMT bezel. So the purpose of the 12, 9, 6 and 3 ball bearings is to lock the bezel onto the piece, not to make it click. What we've got to give the clicking action is, at the 10 o'clock position, we've got another hole drilled in the case, and we've got a ball bearing sat inside a hole on top of a stainless steel spring, and that then presses the ball bearing up into the grooves. So that ball bearing at 10 o'clock engages, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus, in the 120 grooves, rather like a click spring, but it feels smoother because of course you've got the ball engaging with the grooves versus a click spring which is more angled. Now it's very good, they've done a good job of it, because I'm just going to press it back on to show you how easily it fits on. Now you don't have to line it up, for example you don't have to put the 60 at the 12 o'clock mark, you can put the bezel on in any position and you simply press it on with your 2 thumbs with a good hard push, and it clicks on with a nice positive click, and then you can feel it's engaged. The ball bearing at 10 o'clock engages in the underside of the bezel with 120 grooves. Feels smooth. Now I'm going to remove it again, and I'm going to try fitting the other bezels just to confirm the quality control build quality. So index fingernail underneath the 12 o'clock position, you can see it's now prised up, and then what you do is rotate it and prise it, for example at 9, 6 and 3 if necessary. Comes off easy, so just bear with me, I'm going to remove the other bezels and I'm going to test every one of them, because I want to see how easy it is, both the aluminium bezel inserts and also the sapphire bezel inserts, how easy it is to refit. So as you can see, just bear with me, I'll get it to focus. This one is aluminium, rather like a Kermit bezel. It's anodised dark green. It's like an olive green tone to it. So aluminium bezel inserts. It's also infilled with C3, but it's got the same 120 grooves, solid stainless steel. Quality of the finishing to the stainless steel is excellent. Quality of the anodising is excellent. They've done a good job of infilling it with C3. It looks white in daylight rather than cream. Let's test snapping it on. So you can put it on in any position. Put a thumb at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, push on together, nice positive click. Excellent. Sounds good, feels good. Let's check removing it. Index fingernail at 12 o'clock and then at 9 again, and it comes off. So that one's good. Right, let's check the black one, which is again aluminium bezel insert. So thumbs at 9 and 3, press on together, nice positive click. Sounds good, feels good. Let's check removing it. Index fingernail at 12 or 60, and then again at 9. Again, it's enough just to prise it at 12 and 9. You get used to doing it. And in terms of finishing, let's have a look at the aluminium bezel insert. So this is anodised black, and it's high definition infilling, high definition engraving. Tachymeter scale is good. Arabic numerals are correctly proportioned. Nice glossy finish to it. Actually looks like a ceramic bezel insert, but it's aluminium, and it's visually very aesthetically pleasing. They could have used ceramic. Now, this is subjective. Some collectors would have preferred, as an alternative to the sapphire bezel inserts, they use ceramic as an alternative to aluminium, because of course ceramic is harder and more scratch resistant. That's the benefit, but the aluminium bezel inserts give it a vintage aesthetic. This one is actually aluminium, although it looks like glossy black ceramic. So tachymeter scale is engraved very well. Right, so let's check the sapphire bezel inserts. We've got a red and an orange one. So again, thumbs at 9 and 3, press on together. You have to give it a good hard push, and it will engage first time every time, but you need to really press it in with force. That's the point I want you to be mindful of. 120 clicks, feels smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty, even all the way through the 360 degrees, which is good. Let's check removing it. Prise it at 12, prise it at 9 again. So prising it twice is all you need. Comes off freely, and the quality of the sapphire bezel insert is excellent. I like the depth of it. It looks see-through and transparent rather than being translucent. And of course we've got the tachymeter scale, and the minute ticks and the Arabic numerals are very well high definition, done with engraving and then infilled. Underside is finished to perfection and flawless mirror polishing to the bevels, so it's very well made. So lastly, we'll check the final one, which is the orange sapphire bezel insert. Again, I like the depth of it because it does look transparent, you can see through it with perfect clarity, and the sapphire crystal is clearly high quality. And the engraving is very good of the tachymeter scale, Arabic numerals, and also the ticks on the tachymeter. Quality of the stainless steel finishing is stellar, and bevels are excellent. Also, the chamfers on the underside and the top side. The machining of the grooves is very good. This is a high tier level finished bezel. So let's test clicking it on. Excellent. Snaps on first time every time. 120 clicks. Feel even all the way through the 360 degrees. No lateral side to side play. No back play whatsoever. Excellent. This is stellar. Medium resistance. Feels similar to a Seiko 5KX. Doesn't get heavier or lighter. And I like the smoothness. This does feel more refined. It feels smoother than a click spring bezel used on a dive piece. Feels more like a GMT Master 2 with 4 ball bearings at 12, 9, 6 and 3, which of course this does have. But the clicking is provided by the 10 o'clock ball bearing, and the 12, 9, 6 and 3 ball bearings horizontally provide the locking of the bezel onto the case and allow you to withdraw it and fit it back on. Feels very good. So I'll leave this bezel on it. I'm just going to check the alignment of the 60. One more click. Perfect. The 60 on the tachymeter perfectly aligns to the 12 o'clock index and the 60-minute mark on the chaptering. So just bear with me. I'm going to put my glove back on and then I'll continue. So excellent. All of the bezels, all 5, I've tested all of them, fitting and removing. And it's subjective whether you prefer the look of a red sapphire bezel insert like this one. Alternatively, for example, the green aluminium bezel insert, which is rather like a Kermit bezel insert. It's very dark green. And it depends on whether you like the vintage aesthetic of aluminium or the more contemporary look of sapphire, respectively. But the quality is excellent. It's just they need to improve the depth of the C3 to 5 to 6 layers, respectively. So now let's test the push-pull crown execution and also the pushers. So top pusher has an orange ring around it, which complements the orange accents of the chronograph hand and also the chronograph subdial hands. So let's test the chronograph complication. Pushing the top chronograph starts the chronograph and the chronograph hand begins to tick around the dial with the characteristic ticking of the VK63 Mecha Quartz. I really like the triangular profile of the orange chronograph hand. It's excellent. It gives it a real vintage 1970s look, but the legibility is good. It's easy to read. Nice crisp action, heavily spring-loaded, feels reliable and robust. It's going to be durable long term. I like the firm spring-loaded action. It's got a nice loud audible click. Feels good, sounds good when you stop and start the chronograph. Excellent, really good. Lower pusher has a slightly different profile because there's no orange ring around it. And subjectively, I think it would look better if they had done the same finishing. For example, if they had the same recess and orange ring on the top pusher and the lower pusher, but of course this differentiates between the two because you can immediately identify the top pusher is for stopping and starting due to the orange ring. The silver pusher is the lower pusher for resetting. So I'm going to check it 3 out of 3 times. Resets bang on 60. I'll check it another 2 times because, as you'll know from my previous reviews, with a chronograph, regardless of whether it's a mechanical chronograph or alternatively a Mecha Quartz like this VK63, I always like to prove it 3 out of 3 times to check the alignment of the chronograph hand, to see that it resets bang on 12, bang on 60 on the tachymeter 3 out of 3 times at different positions. Nice crisp action. Resets bang on 60. I'll check it a third and final time. And I'm going to allow the chronograph hand to move around to the 45-minute mark on the dial because I want to reset it and just see when it resets fully from 3/4 round the dial, does it reset bang on 60, bang on the centre of the 12 o'clock index 3 out of 3 times. So it looks good. Legibility is good. 3 subdials have perfect symmetry, and I prefer the layout of a 9, 6 and 3 chronograph versus a bicompact style layout with subdials at 9 and 3 respectively. Subjectively, one could be critical of the absence of a date complication at 4 because, of course, the VK63 does have a date complication. They could have cited a date window at 4, but I prefer the symmetry of 3 subdials without a date complication. I like symmetrical dials rather than asymmetrical. So it's now at 45 minutes, so I'm going to reset it and we're going to see, does it reset bang on the 60? Perfect. 3 out of 3 times. So I want to give due credit to Nivada Grenchen here because the chronograph hand resets in all positions 3 out of 3 times. So push-pull crown, coin edge finished, solid 316L grade stainless steel, nice large mirror polished chamfer which deletes the sharp tips of the coin edge teeth, and it's embossed with high definition Nivada Grenchen shield. Very good quality mirror polishing to it. It's correctly proportioned. It's large enough to be grippy and tactile, easy to get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, but not too large as per a dive watch crown. So when you flex the wrist, the crown doesn't dig into the back of the hand. That's the point. So as it's a push-pull crown, pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication, and when you rotate the crown, you can hear and feel the date wheel clicking over to the next day of the month. So the date wheel is still present, and that's the negative I want you to be mindful of. The VK63 has a date complication, but we don't see it. But unfortunately, the negative is we have a phantom date setting position. So if you dislike that, that's something to be mindful of. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. And if you look at the 60-second subdial, you can see it's now stopped dead. So therefore, it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. We're now in the time setting position. Feels smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise, doesn't feel rough or gritty, doesn't feel too stiff, light resistance to it because it has 0 joules. One can feel the meshing of the gearing, feels good, feels smooth and refined. What I like about it is, and the same applies to the VK64 and VK63 respectively, is the smoothness. One doesn't have to take up a lot of slack. When you rotate the coin edge crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the baton hand. So it's good. You don't have to take up a lot of slack. It feels reliable and robust. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that reinstates the 100 metres of hermetic seal. Subjectively, one could be critical and say, well, this would be better quality if it had a screw down crown, but one has to appreciate this is a chronograph piece. We're not looking at a dive piece. 100 metres is good enough. It could have 50 metres, that would suffice. I think 100 metres and a push-pull crown is good enough because we don't have screw down collars on the pushers either, as per a Daytona, for example. And therefore, if they were going to use a screw down crown, of course, they'd have to use screw down collars to match it on the pushers. That would increase production costs significantly and therefore reduce profit margin per piece. It does have a vintage aesthetic, just using pushers without collars and also a push-pull crown, which is correctly proportioned. So chronograph works well, push-pull crown works well. I like it. So I've already done a lume test, so now I'll give you a wrist shot. Just bear with me. I'll remove my Concord 40 and we'll see the strap length. So this rally strap is very soft and supple. That's what I like about it, and I like its matte finish versus glossy. Let's check the length. So it will fit from a 6-inch minimum wrist size up to a maximum 8-inch wrist size. This is a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting this. You'll know this from my previous reviews. Often leather straps and also rubber straps that come on watches are a fraction too short from 8-inch wrist. They're made for the majority of wrist sizes, which is 6 to 7.5 inches. But credit where credit's due. Nivada Grenchen have included a strap which is long enough even from 8-inch wrist. I can fully engage the end of the rally strap, which is Italian leather, through the first fixed keeper and the second sliding keeper. Plenty of length, and I can even slide an index finger beneath a buckle and tang and strap at all times. So 6-inch minimum up to maximum 8-inch wrist size. Good for large wrist sizes. I like the proportions of the angular buckle and tang. Wrist presence is good. Now, as I've detailed, it is a 38mm, but it looks and feels more like a 39. Visually, it looks like a 39 because the bezel is 39 diameter. So to remind you, the bezel overhangs the left-hand flank by 0.5 mm, and it overhangs the right-hand flank of the case 0.5 mm. So bezel is 39, case is 38, but when you look at the piece, it really does look and wear more like a 39. I like it. I like the proportions of it. It gives it a vintage aesthetic. Lug to lug is slightly short at 46.5. It's only 1.5mm below the 48 perfect sweet spot. You'll know from my previous reviews, 48mm is the perfect lug to lug, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. At 46.5 it's compact, but I'm not going to be critical because it has a 38 diameter. This is particularly beneficial if you're a collector with a smaller 6 to 7-inch wrist. You'll really enjoy the 38 diameter by 46.5 lug to lug. Two things I like about this above all else. It's only 13.6, which is a pleasant surprise because it does have a 2mm thick box top hat double dome sapphire crystal, which does add thickness. But even though it has a 2mm thick crystal, it's still only 13.6. And that's the benefit of the caseback not being a bubble back caseback, which is very deep. The angular lugs angle around the wrist very well. They don't stick out, so we don't have a large gap or overhang on the tips of the lugs. It fits very snug to the wrist. Nice low profile flanks, that's what I like about it. So it's only 13.6, it's marginally above the sweet spot of 13. You'll know from my previous reviews, 13 and below is the perfect thickness for a piece to easily slip underneath shirt cuffs if you wear business shirts. At 13.6 it will still easily slip underneath a shirt cuff, it's only 0.62 thick. 72 grams is excellent. I would expect this to be over 75. 72 is very good because it lacks heft, it feels balanced, doesn't feel top heavy. 20mm is the correct lug width. The rally strap does feel very soft and supple, so it's comfortable, looks good, feels good. Buckle and tang has plenty of meat on it, balances the head of the piece, but also visually looks good. So it's a comfortable piece to wear. Feel good factor is good, comfort level is good. I like the choice of 5 different coloured bezels, and of course the options of 3 sapphire bezel inserts, and then we've got the 2 aluminium bezel inserts. Nice to have the alternatives, it does change the aesthetic. This orange bezel does complement the orange accents of the chronograph hand and the 3 subdial hands, and also the orange ring around the top pusher. So it's nice to be able to change the look of the piece with the different bezel colours, and that's something I like about this Chronoking Racing Blue, the 5 different bezel colours. So my 2 favourites are the black bezel and also the blue bezel, the sapphire blue and also the aluminium black, but it's subjective, it comes down to your personal taste. So looks good, feels good, it's not top heavy, 13.6 is good thickness, 72 grams means it's balanced. Very nice thin, low profile flanks which are brushed satin finished. The pierced lugs give it a vintage aesthetic. It does visually look and feel like a 1970s Chronoking. And Nivada Grenchen deserve credit because it is difficult with a brand doing a heritage reissue and updating it to modern day contemporary specification to get the balance correct between vintage aesthetic but modern day specification, modern day enhancement. So this box top hat crystal is the correct choice because it does look like a vintage 1970s acrylic, plexiglass or Hesselite domed crystal, but we have the benefit of AR coating and of course the benefit of sapphire crystal being harder and more scratch resistant than acrylic, for example. The sapphire bezel insert complements that, and I think it looks like a 1970s Chronoking, but of course more scratch resistant. Case has nice angular profile and the bezel has a nice large mirror polished chamfer to it, so visually it does look like a vintage piece. Calf leather strap, which is Italian leather, is the correct choice. A rally strap on this chronograph does fit it. So they've done the right job with the colour selection, and I really like the textured blue dial and the contrasting orange hands with the orange bezel. Very good looking piece. Comfortable to wear, feel good factor is good, comfort level is good. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's my favourite aspect of the piece. Now, you'll all be familiar with the Seiko VK63. And to clarify, the architecture is the same as the VK64. The only difference between the VK63 and the VK64 respectively is the position of the subdials. They both have date complications and the date wheel is still present, and the negative is we have a phantom date setting position. That's something to be mindful of. It's a reliable, well-proven mecha quartz calibre made in Japan and has 0 joules. It has hacking, has a quick set date complication, which works well. The negative is the phantom date setting position. 3-year battery life is strong, but one has to appreciate the 3-year battery life is based upon you using the chronograph complication for 60 minutes per day. However, in reality, you're not going to be using the chronograph complication for anything like 60 minutes per day. So although the stated battery life is 3 years, in reality, in practice, it's usually 3 to 4 or even 5 years. So potentially you could purchase this piece and wear it for 4 or 5 years before needing to change the battery if you don't use the chronograph for 60 minutes per day. Stated accuracy of the VK63 is plus or minus 20 seconds per month. Stellar accuracy, just think about that for a moment. That's not plus or minus 20 seconds per day or per week. Plus or minus 20 seconds per month is better than plus or minus 1 second per day. Perfect accuracy. So accuracy is what I really like about it. The other thing I really like about it is the long battery life. In reality, 4 to 5 years. So excellent, reliable, well proven, and build quality, quality control, materials and finishing are excellent. However, I'm going to be critical of its use at this price point. This is $610 US, which is €515. So lastly, I will summarise the piece. I'm going to declare it good quality, and I'm going to declare it okay value, but I can't say excellent quality and excellent value. So why do I say that? Well, the bezel, the looms. Now, with regards to both the sapphire crystal and also the aluminium, same applies across all 5 bezels, to clarify. They need to have 5 to 6 layers to make this piece excellent quality and excellent value at €515. 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 is just not good enough. And this is what I need to see with a V2 version. I'd like to see them make a V2 of the Chronoking Racing Blue and upgrade it with 5 to 6 layers on the sapphire bezel insert, 5 to 6 on the aluminium bezel insert. So that downgrades it. But other than that, build quality, quality control, materials and finishing are excellent throughout. I like the bezel execution, I like the inclusion of 5 different bezels, and they are easy to remove and refit, so it's practical, they work well. But at this price point, I like to see a higher grade of chronograph movement used. So what would I suggest? Well, I'd like to see the Sellita caliber SW510M. The M in the reference denotes manual wind versus the automatic version of the SW510. Hanhart are using it in the 4170S, and it works very well because it's not very thick, because there's no rotor on the underside of the SW510M. They delete the rotor. And at €515, that would upgrade this to excellent quality and excellent value. Really, it needs a mechanical chronograph movement to give it excellent quality and excellent value rating. The Seiko VK63 is excellent in terms of reliability and accuracy, but it's only excellent quality and excellent value with low tier pieces between €0 and €500. It's the only credible alternative to the Seagull caliber ST1701, which is also used in chronograph pieces such as the Seagull 1963, which you're all familiar with. Of course, they can't use the Seagull ST1701 in this piece because it's a Chinese movement and it doesn't really fit a Swiss piece. One could argue that a Japanese movement like the Seiko VK63 shouldn't really be used in a Swiss-made piece, and it spoils the heritage of Nivada Grenchen because they were founded in 1926 in Grenchen in Switzerland. So they do have that brand heritage which adds value to the piece, and of course purist Nivada Grenchen collectors appreciate that. The original Chronoking from the 1970s used a mechanical movement. And of course, purist Nivada Grenchen collectors will be disappointed this does not have a mechanical movement such as the SW510M. And they've downgraded it to a Mecha Quartz movement, the VK63. It's a production cost cutting measure in order to maximise profit margin per piece. That's the reality of it. If this were a low tier piece between 0 and 500, yes, it would be acceptable, but it's not. It's mid tier. It's 515. It's just on the cusp of it. And I really think it needs an SW510M, even if that means increasing the price point. For example, if this was €750 or even €1,000, but it used SW510M, I would say yes, excellent quality and excellent value. The Sellita SW510M fully justifies that price point. VK63, I think they're pushing it at €515 for this piece. I do like it. It looks good, feels good, feel good factor is good, comfort level is good, bezel execution is excellent. They just need to improve the quality of the lume on the bezels, but they just need to upgrade the movement. So that's how I'm going to rate it. Good quality, okay value. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Nivada Grenchen Chronoking Racing Blue. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.